If you were tasked with venturing deep into an irradiated wasteland to investigate the aftermath of a science experiment gone wrong, what would you do? Our heroes have the training, the equipment, and the experience to make anyone's day in a normal fight. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean much in an area where normal has pretty much lost all meaning. Fact is, there's very little in this place that plays by the rules, their enemies included, and if they all want to survive, they'll first have to acknowledge that they're in way over their heads. I'm gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the mind melter in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadow of the Zone. Alright, so this one will be yet another first for Nerd Explains. You see, Shadow of the Zone isn't some big-budget Hollywood production or sci-fi channel schlock, but rather a high-quality passion project made by true fans of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series of video games. The best part is, you can watch this entire movie for free over on Evan Royalty's YouTube channel. I linked it down in the description as well, so you really have no excuse. Go check it out. Also, full disclosure, my good friend Joshua Gray was one of the film's producers, and even though I'm not super familiar with the S.T.A.L.K.E.R franchise, he was still gracious enough to greenlight our coverage. He even got us in on a Discord call with the cast members so we could prod them all with ridiculous questions. Anyway, that's enough backstory for now. So let's grab a bottle of Cossack vodka, throw on our GP5 gas masks, and fight our way through the Shadow of the Zone. Crow is a loner. After losing his wife and unborn child to a drunk driver several years ago, he decided to leave the world behind and start a new life inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone. It is here that he would subside as both a fortune hunter seeking out paranormal artifacts and as a freelance mercenary taking odd jobs for the plethora of shady characters operating inside the zone. You see, the Chernobyl of this universe isn't just the site of the infamous radiological disaster that threatened to contaminate all of Europe. It's also where a bunch of stupid science dorks tried to fundamentally change human nature by tapping into the so-called noosphere. The result was that they basically f***ed everything up within about a 20-mile radius, creating an area filled with unspeakable horrors beyond all comprehension. However, on the positive side, the big brain's blunder also produced a wide assortment of valuable trinkets and magic garbage, thereby incentivizing men from all walks of life to cast aside the frills of modern living and go die horribly while searching for buried treasure. Sounds enticing, I know. Nerds, listen closely. Are you listening? Can you even listen that well on your old decrepit phone speakers or earbuds? Well, have I got just the thing for you. I'm talking, of course, about today's sponsor, Raycon. Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect accessory for any occasion. Why, you ask? Top-tier audio quality at half the price of other premium brands. Audio fidelity isn't just about feeding music into your ears, but also active noise cancellation. Raycon enables you to simply delete all the sound of people and things around you that would otherwise distract you from my voice. With your Raycons inserted, it'll be like I'm sitting right beside you, guiding your decisions, and reminding you to always text a loved one before going on an adventure. Each pair of Raycons comes with a compact protective charging case, making it easier than ever to bring your earbuds with you wherever you go. Plus, with their 32-hour battery life and new quick charge functionality, you can rest assured knowing that they'll be ready to rock whenever you are. Me personally, I use my Raycons almost every single day. Their ergonomic gel tips are both secure and comfortable, making them perfect for crushing podcasts on a run or taking long phone calls with both hands free. And of course, you know I'm always using that awareness mode whenever I'm out in public, so that I'm always ready to collateral a homie trying to sneak up on me while I'm cracking up at a Tim Dillon's podcast. The holidays might be over, but you can still give yourself the gift of high-quality audio at low-dollar prices when you click the link in the description or visit buyraycon.com/nerd to get 15% off site-wide. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Anyway, having survived his fair share of excitement in this nightmare world, Crow was eventually recruited by a band of Western mercenaries looking to pull a job somewhere deeper inside the zone. According to the briefing, their mission is to investigate the source of a mysterious signal and, if possible, destroy it. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, here's the thing. Apparently, this signal has the potential to mind-jack anyone unfortunate enough to be inside its range and lure them off to God knows where. Worse yet, in the days since the signal first appeared, an unknown group has been taken over the area north of the Merc's current position, so the likelihood of encountering heavily armed resistance is extremely high. Lucky for our guys, it turns out there's an allied faction that's more than willing to charge headfirst into these while they sneak around. However, the way I see it, that's only half the problem. After all, it doesn't really matter how you get there if you're just gonna get your brain scrambled by some wacko science experiment. In fact, were I in this briefing, the very first question that I would ask is whether we had any means of preventing this. And if the best that they can come up with is sliding a sheet of tinfoil under my helmet, then you can count me out. Brotherhood or not, we're all still mercenaries, right? I'm here to get paid, and there's no amount of money that's gonna bring me back from the dead if that thing walks me into a minefield. But oh well, I guess these guys are just eager to get some action. Speaking of which, the raiding party seems fairly well equipped. Their weapons are almost universally Western, which is what they would be most familiar with. And while keeping them fed might prove difficult out here, the intention is to avoid combat as much as possible. Plus, given their limited numbers and lack of support, they would probably all be dead before they ran out of ammo anyway. As for the team's makeup, they have an automatic rifleman, his assistant named Josh, who's also named Josh in real life, a breacher, a marksman, a medic, leadership, Crow serving as the guide, and the science man, Brain, who's there to advise and react to violence in a mix of shock and horror. Now, the leader, Monk, described this as a skeleton crew, but it actually seems appropriate for this kind of thing. Looking back to the Vietnam War, SOG units would typically run recon teams ranging in size from 2 SOF members and 6 mercenaries to 3 SOF and 9 mercenaries, so we're just about in that range. Besides, having a smaller team will make it easier to both avoid detection and break contact should the worst come to pass, so I don't really see a problem with the overall head count. That being said, there is one thing that they're definitely lacking, and that is a drone operator. Think about it. You're following some rando deep into hostile territory with virtually no intelligence. Meanwhile, there's an unknown number of armed combatants out there who could be pretty much anywhere, and they're supposedly shooting anything that moves. I don't know about you, but being able to safely scout ahead seems like a pretty useful thing in that case. And I mean, it's not like budget's an issue here. Each one of these dudes is bopping around with 5 figures on their foreheads alone. Hell, they even brought in Wendigoon to secure the HQ while they're gone. That couldn't have been cheap. So why not drop an extra 1,000 on a high-end tethered drone with thermal optics? It could easily save their lives. Also, yes, I realize that Amazon doesn't overnight to atomic wastelands yet, but realistically, this is something that they should have brought in with them when they first arrived. By now, everyone and their dog knows the zone is a horrible place, so if you can afford a military drone, you might as well bring one. Worst case scenario, there's an actual war taking place nearby, so maybe someone could make one fall off a truck for you. You never know until you try. At any rate, fast forward to the following day, and we join Crow just in time to watch him stab some guy in the neck. Apparently, this was a bandit patrol, but like, how do you know? Is it the ski mask? Don't get me wrong, I'm fine either way. Just want to know who we're dealing with before we butcher their entire camp. Yup. They were definitely all bandits. Interesting choice to block off their sightline like that without posting guards nearby. After all, concealment works both ways, and if you're not gonna watch the other side of it, you're really just making it easier for people to sneak up on you, which is, of course, exactly what happened. Whatever the case, our heroes decide to celebrate the easy clap with a short break. However, it turns out rest is no longer an option. One minute you're consoling some lab rat who's never seen a man's head explode, and the next, you're suddenly thrust into the upside down getting sweet-talked by a tree. Truly, the zone is a magical place. Jokes aside, this is very bad. We come to find out the crow wasn't the only one getting in on the daydream, and judging by the content, it was almost certainly caused by the signal. Knowing this, we should probably keep a closer eye on one another going forward. Stands to reason that if this thing can make someone abandon their friends at the drop of a hat, it could also probably make them pull the pin on a grenade. Furthermore, it's unclear just how much exposure is required to push someone over the edge. So we'll want to keep it to an absolute minimum, and if that means no one gets a break until we're back inside the wire, then so be it. Fact is, everyone should have known going into this mess that they'd be on the clock the second they hit the signal, so there is absolutely no reason any of them should still be sitting down, or picking up glowing rocks. Fortunately, the team doesn't waste too much more time before hitting the road, and by nightfall they arrive at the army warehouse on the edge of the enemy territory. Based on all the gunfire, it seems their friends in the duty faction have already begun the diversion, so it's pretty much smooth sailing from here on out. Well, almost. You see, despite the ever-present threat of remote indoctrination hanging over their heads like a grand piano, it seems our heroes felt that they had enough time to bed down for the night. I'm not sure how they could have possibly arrived at this conclusion, given no one seemingly has any idea what the signal is or how it operates, but apparently they're just not all that worried about it. And sure enough, upon waking up, the mercs are immediately hit with the realization that one of them has gone missing. Worse yet, it's the medic, and by the looks of it, he took all his trauma gear with him, so that's just great. Now, in their defense, it is revealed at this point that the men were equipped with some kind of psi protection to mitigate the signal's effects, so one might understand how they could have assumed that they were in the clear. Problem is, we know that as far back as the Bandit camp, no fewer than 3 of them had already started showing signs of exposure, which means it should have already been obvious to them that whatever countermeasures they were packing weren't 100% effective. Still, even disregarding the threat of exposure, their decision to settle in and catch a few Z's doesn't seem quite right. Remember, these guys are all wearing night vision, something that, even today, is still fairly uncommon outside the NATO-verse. This gives them a virtually insurmountable advantage over their enemies who would almost certainly be reliant on visible light. As a matter of fact, back at the army warehouses, we even saw a couple hostile patrols waving around flashlights, so it's a pretty safe bet that no one else is rocking dual tubes out here. And sure, I realize exhaustion is a thing that exists, but with the possible exception of Crow and Brain, the entire crew is supposed to be ex-special operations. They should be more than accustomed to staying alert for 1 or 2 days straight. Hell, even an average person could pull this off if they absolutely had to. As for the distance, the zone really isn't that big. We're talking somewhere around 40 miles at its widest point. However, in this case, we know our guys started off in Rostock with their destination just a few miles north of the Red Forest. By my estimation, this puts their total travel distance at around 15 miles, which should be well within their capabilities, especially knowing that they left shortly after 6 a.m. the previous morning. So no, I see no reason why they needed to stop when they did. Just slam some energy drinks, nicotine, pans, or chocolate, whatever, and keep it moving until you hit the signal source. By the looks of it, they had already passed the Red Forest at the time that they stopped to sleep. So all they had to do was pick up the pace a bit, and they could have potentially reached their objective while still under the cover of darkness. And believe me, once this mess pops off, they will definitely wish they had. Took him long enough. For real though, dude didn't even flinch until they popped him in the head, and that's gonna be a really big problem here in just a minute. You see, it turns out the mysterious group that's been cleaning house out here is composed entirely of brainwashed human killing machines known as Monolith. They feel no pain. they have no fear of death. And worst of all, our guys just got word that there's about 100 more of them moving towards their position. According to command, this is the same element that Duty's been dealing with back at the army warehouses. Unfortunately, the allied stalkers have taken too many casualties at this point to try and slow them down. But on the positive side, it should still take them a few hours to get here. That being said, it is worth pointing out that had our guys moved just a little bit faster, they might have been able to reach this place before Duty lost too many men. Whether or not that would have ultimately made a difference is difficult to say, but either way, it certainly couldn't have hurt. In any case, all the mercs can do now is finish clearing out the facility in the hopes of finding something useful, but it's not long before they reach a dead end. Apparently, whoever set this place up locked all the good stuff behind a heavy vault door, and while the breacher probably does have enough C4 to blow it open, it would probably bring the roof down on them in the process. Realizing this, Monk leaves Josh with Crow and Brain to look for an access code, while he and the others head back outside to set up their defenses. Gotta say, it's pretty hard to imagine how a 5-man team could ever possibly defend this place against a threat like the Monolith. And having thought about it for a while, I think the answer is that they shouldn't. Fact is, our guys are simply too few in numbers to hold out against a force of this size, especially one that can't be suppressed, and that will undoubtedly fight until their dying breath. Plus, there's just not enough room to maneuver out here. The building that they're trying to protect is right near the edge of the perimeter, which means there's nowhere to fall back to if things get hot. Moreover, their only known escape route is a tunnel entrance to the left of their firing line, so if they get pushed back at all, they are totally screwed. And of course, if they retreat inside the building, the Monolith will just surround them, and at that point, they'll either die fighting or stay trapped long enough to get their brains hacked. Now, having said all that, the one thing mercs do have going for them is an ambush position. As it turns out, there's some kind of environmental anomalies to the east and west that force the enemy to approach from the south. But the problem is, they're not even 50 yards from the edge of the vegetation, so as soon as the Monolith can start returning fire, they're gonna get shot to pieces. Nah, the way I see it, it's time to GTFO. And besides, it's not like the mission was a failure. They found the facility, searched for intel while they could, and they could even still sabotage the signal source on their way out. All they have to do is send the breacher up to the roof and have him place that massive block of plastic explosives on the antenna. That ought to do it, but alas, it seems that in spite of everything I just mentioned, these guys are committed to sticking around. All I can say is that it's too bad they didn't have a drone that they could use to better inform their decision making, or else they might have reconsidered. Too late now, though.
3, 2, 1. Talking 0-1, we made contact with Monolith. Too many to count, over.
Yeah, that sounds to me like something that you would hear over the radio in a video game right before a whole lot of screaming. But hey, credit where it's due. The team actually manages to hold the line, at least for now anyway. All the same, I feel like things would have been going just a little bit better had they started their ambush off with gunfire instead of explosives. Looking at the battlefield, there's a decent amount of low cover inside the kill zone that the Monolith could potentially use to set up firing positions. And of course, that's exactly what they do. Knowing that this was likely to happen, it would have been a better idea to place the explosives there and wait until they started piling in. After all, the mercs only had enough ordnance for a single blast, so they'd want to make sure that they were harvesting as much meat as they possibly could. And while it's unclear exactly how many they managed to kill by mining the bushes, it could have easily just been a small scouting party ahead of the main force. Either way, now the enemy has a base of fire within spitting distance of their position, and that includes this asshole with the grenade launcher. Also, I question Monk's decision to have their marksmen come up and reinforce the right side. From his original position, he could have easily popped heads left and right without having to worry about too much incoming fire, but now he's right in the thick of it. Then again, they were in danger of being outflanked at that point, so it might have been the only option. One thing's for sure, they can't keep this up much longer, but fortunately, they won't have to. As it turns out, the Vault team had a major breakthrough. Well, Crow did anyway. After powering up an abandoned smartphone he found, the loner started going through the contacts, and listed among them was none other than one Brian Brain Serrano. Realizing the implications of this, Crow politely sits his new friend down for one last heart-to-heart, at which point the man reveals his affiliation with the same team of scientists who turned Chernobyl into Ukrainian fallout. Apparently, the surviving members of the so-called group believed that one psychotic catastrophe wasn't nearly enough, and so they created this place to keep the party going. I'm sure you can probably guess how that turned out. At any rate, Brain goes on to explain that he was sent here to determine whether any data from their latest experiment gone wrong might be salvageable, after which he would contact the military to have the whole place leveled with artillery. And you know what? That makes perfect sense to me. What I don't understand is why he wouldn't want to open the vault door as quickly as possible. Like, I understand the need to keep his involvement with the project a secret, but by waiting as long as he did, he put the whole mission in jeopardy. Besides, he was gonna have to open the door eventually, and no matter how he went about it, it was always going to arouse some level of suspicion. I mean, come on, do you really expect the others to believe that you found the passcode for this super secret lab written down somewhere? The least Brain could have done is made up some BS about gaining administrative access via that old laptop that he was screwing around with, and using it to tamper with the hand scanner. Then once the lockdown was lifted, Crow probably would have gone outside to help with the defenses, and he could have done whatever he needed to do. Is it believable? Well, that all depends on the stalker's level of technical literacy, but it was worth a try knowing things were about to pop off. Whatever. We're here now, and Crow's on board, so let's find out if there's anything in this dump worth preserving.
We better. I'm not going back.
Nope, there is not, and it appears the science man agrees. However, before our protagonist can call in the big guns to erase this mistake, the mysterious entity inside releases a massive burst of energy that knocks them both unconscious. Lucky for them, the TBIs that they both received were only mild ones, and while Brain is suddenly nowhere to be found, he was at least nice enough to leave behind the passphrase for the artillery barrage. Meanwhile, back outside, things are looking pretty grim. The team's right flank has totally collapsed, and two of the men are dead. One, very dead. But just when it looks like they're about to be overrun, who else but Crow emerges from the building to let them know that they can finally leave. And with that, the surviving mercenaries deploy smoke grenades to conceal their retreat. And after a long and exhausting run back through the tunnels, it seems they'll live to fight another day. You know, provided they can make it back to Rostock without being eaten by dogs. In the end, only 5 out of the 8 members of the raid team made it out alive. However, that's still pretty good when you consider what they were up against. Now, the question is, was this movie beaten? Well, this time around, I'm gonna let you decide. And that means you should probably go to Evan Royalty's channel to give this one a watch for yourselves. You know, just in case I missed something. Seriously though, I know I might have been critical at times, but the truth is, I'm extremely impressed with what these guys were able to achieve. Like I said before, I wasn't all that familiar with the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series before checking this one out, but now I can't turn it off. In fact, you might even get some gaming content here in the near future. Who knows? Anyway, for that reason, I think S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadow of the Zone, is badass. Moral of the story, it's better to be dead tired than just dead.